Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It's Sunday night, little after 7 p.m. Eastern time. Just finishing up the late games here. The Giants they have an incredible comeback. They were down 20-0 in the first half, and they're about to win this game. And then the Denver Broncos look like they're in good shape in the first half and are about to blow this game. So this has been a pretty exciting Sunday, Clark.
Yeah, the red zone, when you get red zone channel and then if you get multiple screens and then you get a bunch of close games, it's like football nirvana. It's just, it's just ridiculous. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, constantly stuff happening, it's a little overwhelming, but it's pretty awesome. So, and the 4 o'clock games, actually delivered. Sometimes I feel like the 1 o'clock games deliver and then the 4 o'clock games are kind of duds, but it's been pretty good today. So
yeah, so the Giants officially won their game, and so the only game left really in doubt is the Commanders and the Broncos, and the Commanders have an 11-point lead with 7 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So all right. So where do you want to start with today? Well, starting from Thursday, whatever you want to talk about. Where do you want to start off?
Oh, you want to just start from Thursday, I guess?
Sure.
Okay. So so I guess we need to trade Kirk Cousins. And the Vikings, I guess they just totally suck. Or
yeah, this just in, Kirk Cousins is a pretty good quarterback, and listen, I would take him on my team if you have the right players around him. He's still a good quarterback. Now, is he a game changer? Is he elite? No, but welcome to real life where most people are not elite.
What's up? Yeah, it's pointed this way. Yeah. sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the Vikings game. So, I mean, yeah, that game kind of swung a little bit at the end of the first half. Because the Vikings are driving. Cousins throws a good pass to was that Jefferson? Yeah, Justin Jefferson. Yep. And then he tries to reach out to get a touchdown. The ball goes out of the end zone, so it's automatically a turnover. So instead of potentially being up 14-10 going into halftime, they're down 13-7. And then Cousins I guess he got hit and fumbled, and then they returned that for a touchdown, and then it kind of, but the Vikings, they were able to move the ball and they kept scoring. They just couldn't get any more. They couldn't get any more stops. They couldn't stop the Eagles from running the ball. Even though the Eagles, they were kind of having a hard time passing. Their pass game hasn't really been that good the first 2 weeks. So that's a little bit of a concern, but I mean, I think their offensive and defensive lines seem to still be pretty good. So that's obviously something to build around. But with the Vikings, look, if you wanted to draft a quarterback and like start over, I mean, I guess you could make that argument for, getting rid of Kirk Cousins, but I just don't. It's like, okay, fine. There's probably several other teams that'll be like, okay, we'll take him.
Right.
I mean, assuming they have cap space and all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't really. I mean, there's quarterbacks better than him, but there's not that many. So, and again, he still had a bunch of numbers. I mean, it really stinks for the Vikings because you could argue they should be 2-0 or at least 1-1, and instead of that, they're 0-2. So that's a brutal way to start the season. And it's not like their season's over, but it's just, being 0-2 is not a good, you're in a hole. So we'll have to see if they can dig their way out.
Yeah, I mean, they had, 3 or 4 fumbles in the game. They fumbled on special teams. The running back fumbled. The Justin Jefferson play, which, I mean, that's a toss-up in the air that could go either way. And so, Kirk Cousins plays a hell of a game. Has 340 yards and 4 touchdowns. And yet, they didn't lose that game because of Kirk Cousins. They lost that game because of the defense and the turnovers that were not Kirk Cousins' fault. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. Look, but nobody's claiming that Kirk Cousins is elite. So it's a bunch of garbage. So, no, listen. And it'll be controversial. Dolphins fans probably hate me. I'll take Kirk Cousins over Tua. No offense. Kirk Cousins, who plays every game, when you put good players around him, what does he do? He wins. So, wins a lot of games. Am I going to win the Super Bowl with him? Probably not. But if we're going to talk about, and the other thing that bothers me, if we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins that way, then we've got to talk about Dak Prescott the same way.
Yeah, yeah, because
So
they're pretty similar.
they're the same quarterback. Statistically, they're exactly the same. I think as far as the Eagles go, I mean, the Eagles are trying to figure it out. New coordinators on both sides of the ball, but they're really dominant. Their offensive line is fantastic. So, they're not going to have a whole lot of issues. They're going to be a good team. Are they going to be dominant like they were last year? We'll see. But that was a game where it's like the Eagles are like, all right, we're just going to do what we do. We're going to run the ball. We're going to use our offensive line, and we're going to kick some ass. And they did. And if it wasn't for those turnovers, it's probably a different outcome.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that division is still going to come down to, in my opinion, still going to come down to the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings. The Bears clearly, I, you know, they got problems, and the Packers, they got a good roster and stuff, but they got a good roster. But I mean, Jordan Love he's fine. He looks fine. He looks like he's kind of accurate, and they're probably putting him in good position to play well. But at the same time, he's nothing special. I mean, he had a chance at the end of the game to maybe drive down and get a field goal to win the game, and they just went, they went 4-and-out. So, the divisions. I think Minnesota will still be in there for the division at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So, since you brought that up, let's talk about the Packers Falcons game today. I've been saying, for a while, for the last couple of weeks at least, that these people who think Atlanta is a really good team are ridiculous, and Green Bay is a better team, and they're going to win the game today. Now they had a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they blew it and lost the game, and so that's by 1 point. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but I still feel vindicated in the fact that I said Green Bay's got a solid team. They're going to be pretty good, and they are. They're good on defense. They're on offense. They can run the ball pretty well. They got some young receivers, so they're trying to figure that out. But they had Christian Watson and Aaron Jones out today, and they came real close to winning the game on the road. So I think that I don't think you can count out the Packers to win that division either. I know the sexy pick is the Lions, and everybody loves them, but you saw today the Lions. The Lions have some holes. Their defense has a lot of issues. And that's kind of the way it went. So I felt like I've assessed the Packers correctly. I think they're a solid team. Are they going to I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but they're good at most positions on their team.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, solid roster. They got some good, some talent on offense. They got talent on defense. Atlanta, and I said this a couple of years ago. Like Arthur Smith, I think is a pretty good coach. Because Atlanta, I mean, they're not like a mess, but it's just they're clearly trying to rebuild. They don't really have a quarterback. They tried Mariota last year, it didn't really work, and then they were doing Desmond Ritter, and some games it looks like they can't really throw the ball. Today
He
he
played
actually
pretty
did
well
make some
today.
plays. Yeah, he played pretty well. He was pretty good. They ran the ball. I think Arthur Smith knows what he's doing as far as coaching offense. I think that's pretty clear. I mean, I think he did a really good job with Tannehill when he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. And then he comes to Atlanta, and like the first year he had Matt Ryan, and like even though they were a mediocre team, like their offense was still moving the ball and scoring points. And then even last year they basically just went to this really run heavy offense, which that's what they needed to do because that's what they had. And it was kind of they were a 500 team, in the middle of the year, and then it all just kind of fell apart. So now they're 2-0. So, and their division's not, no one in their division looks really, really imposing. So, like, yeah, they could, could they be competing for the division? I guess.
Yeah, I think Ritter played well. He had 237 yards today. He did all right. So and then he was pretty good running with the ball. He saved some downs by running in this game, and I think that really, that kind of sealed it for him. And Bijan Robinson, the rookie running back, is fantastic. I don't know if anybody's watched him. Like, it pissed me off today on the Red Zone where Scott Hanson's like, our rookie player of the day is Anthony Richardson, he had 2 touchdowns running in the game, but he played, I think he left in the first quarter and didn't come back. Meanwhile, Bijan Robinson has 129 yards rushing. Like, Atlanta doesn't win that game without him. So, what are you doing? That guy was clearly the best rookie of, today's games. But anyway, so moving on from that, look, I think I like the Seahawks. I picked the Seahawks to win their division. We'll see what happens. San Francisco looks really good, but the Seahawks got the win today. It was tough. They had to fight like crazy. Thank goodness they had a Jared Goff interception return for a touchdown that basically got them into overtime where they were able to win the game. So I think that's another team that I really like that I think I was right on. Now, the Seahawks have some issues. They got both their offensive tackles were out today, but they figured it out.
Yeah, Geno Smith. I don't like. Is there another thing that you can think of that's happened like this before? Because I mean, he basically like he got drafted and then he kind of flamed out, and then he was kind of making rosters, in different places, and then, you know, he just comes in and then he's good. I'm not saying he's great or anything, but he's just good. Like you're watching him play, like he makes throws, he moves around with the ball. He doesn't seem to make, too many bad decisions, except for that sack he took late in the fourth quarter. But I don't think of another example of this because it's almost like that. It felt like that guy was like at the fringe of the league, and now he's like, he's a legit starting quarterback, and they're winning games. I mean,
and by the way, is Kirk Cousins really that much better than Geno? Like, if Kirk Cousins is playing like Geno Smith, we still want to get rid of Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, it's just the way that they're treated is completely different. Kirk Cousins is shit on because he's not, elite, and Geno's like, oh man, look at this guy. Like it's one of those things that really makes me laugh. But that was a really fun game. Detroit, and I think Detroit's going to end up in a lot of those games because they're trying to figure out what they are on defense. Seattle's not very good on defense, so I think that's going to be the issue with them. I don't know, that may get in the way of them winning the division, especially with, the way the 49ers are playing.
Yeah.
I just wrote down the Chargers, Clark. I just wrote down Chargers be Chargerin'. I mean, another game where, they made plenty of plays. They couldn't get key stops when they needed to. The defense gave up a lead again. And it's they get the ball first in overtime, can't do anything with it. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah. It seemed like maybe they should have ran away with that game, but the Titans are exactly like their coach. They keep playing, the whole game. It doesn't matter what's going on. They play hard. They play pretty good defense. And, Ryan Tannehill, like, I know people, again, another quarterback people seem to want to shit on, but Ryan Tannehill, like, look, DeAndre Hopkins made a few plays. I think they have another receiver who's kind of talented. Obviously, they have Derrick Henry. And also, how concerned do we need to be about the Chargers secondary? Because Tannehill torched them a couple times. Is it just Dolphins quarterbacks or former Dolphins quarterbacks that they need to worry about, or do they have a problem?
No, we need to be concerned about Brandon Staley. He's a fraud. Like, I was just thinking about this today. Brandon Staley is a fraud. Josh McDaniels is a fraud. These guys, they pose as coaches, but they're really not. We give them the props for being a coach, but the guy has no freaking clue what he's doing. The defense is a travesty, and I know that, all right, maybe Kellen Moore improved the offense, and the Chargers offense played pretty well last week, and I thought they played okay this week, but this is one of those things. It's just like this to me. This is on the coach. Like, I know people, like the people who want to crap on Justin Herbert. They're gonna, Herbert doesn't get it done and all this garbage. No, the Chargers don't get it done because they're poorly coached and they're not prepared and they're not ready for games like this. And the coaching mismatch in this game was about as wide a gap as you can get. Vrabel squeezes every last ounce out of his team, and Staley just continues to underachieve. So it's just we'll see if he actually gets fired if the Chargers continue to be cheap and keep crappy coaches. And this is how you lose games that you should win.
Well, all the people that think he's on the hot seat, yeah, maybe. But, the Chargers, they should have hired Brian Daboll.
Yep.
But he wanted more money, and they're cheap, and they don't want to pay him. So it's like, okay, just think about this. you saw what Brian Daboll did with Josh Allen, right? And you saw what he did with Daniel Jones last year, where it's just like, hey, we'll have you run a bunch, and we'll try to avoid too many mistakes, and you'll be a reliable starting quarterback, And then today, I mean, we'll get into that later, but I mean today, he looked pretty good. So it's like, if you really want to win, then you got to spend the money, especially on
Right.
coaches and coordinators. It's like, okay, fine, you don't want to do that. Okay, whatever. It's your money, I guess. But I don't know. It's kind of sad because you know, I think it's really sad when you look at teams where they have a lot of talent and you're like, are they getting the most out of that? Because if you're getting the most out of it and you don't win, okay, fine, whatever. But if you're just not getting the most out of it, then it's a waste.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Chargers 0-2, and not not looking great. And we'll see where they end up. The Kansas City Jacksonville game. Kansas City. They concern me a little bit.
Their
They
defense
had
looks pretty good.
Yeah, the defense looks good, but I mean they had Kelsey today, and they still can't really score. And so that's definitely a problem. I mean, it's good that they were able to hang in there and get the win. That's a credit. That's a credit to them. But it's like, wow, this is what are we to make of this? You can blame one week on receivers drop passes, whatever, but man, that's two games where Kansas City was definitely beatable.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I mean, you think about it. So they scored, what did they score? 20 points against the Lions, right?
Yep.
And then they scored, what, 17? So they scored 20 points one week and 17 points the next week. Like, that's a little concerning.
Yep.
I mean, give credit to their defense, but, I, the receivers made some plays, and I just wonder, like, I was thinking about this, like this weekend. Yeah, you can kind of just have a bunch of no-name receivers, and you can win games, and maybe you can compete for the Super Bowl. But Brady did that for years, and that's difficult. There's some years where you're going to need you need your weapons to make extra plays, and they maybe can't. So, I said this to you after the Detroit game. Like, I'm not necessarily too worried about this yet, but the Chiefs need to kind of hit on some wide receiver draft picks. You need to get the other really good teams. They at least got one really elite wide receiver, and I guess you could say that's Kelsey, but they're going to need somebody because you're not going to have Kelsey forever. And you're not going to have them competing at a high level forever.
Yeah, I mean, look, it bodes well for them in the future if their defense is going to play like that. You would think they would, be better on offense as the season goes along, but we'll see. We were worried about it was worrisome last year without Tyreek Hill, and they figured it out. So it's just one of those things to keep your eye on. The Cincinnati Bengals, on the other hand, that's a team that I don't know what's going on there. I mean, part of it is just Joe Burrow being out, and it's not one of those where I'm overly worried about it, but they don't look good, and offensively they're a nightmare. Like it's tough for them to move the ball. They started to do it at the end. They started to come on a little bit, but they're 0-2. They gotta pick it up.
Well, I think the part of it is also that Burrow always struggles against Cleveland, and then also, I mean, the Ravens and the Bengals. You saw it last year. They play really close games. So, yeah, again, it's not like your season's over at 0-2, but it's just you're in a hole. You got to get a win next week. And the Ravens, the Ravens look like the Ravens. They're running the ball. Lamar makes some throws here and there. That Zay Flowers guy looks pretty good. Odell Beckham, I guess, got hurt in the game, and then Dobbins got injured last week, in the last game. So some of it's just health with them, we'll kind of see. But the Ravens look like the Ravens. The Bengals, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they kind of woke up a little bit in the second half, and maybe they carry that into next week. But I don't know. I mean, that's 2 division games that you lost. So
Well, and I just want to address this. Like, I know that we talk about this in this podcast. You know, everybody tries to make, the NFL, every game matters and it's so important and blah, blah, blah. You're not done if you're 0-2, guys. Like, 0-2 doesn't mean you're done. Now, 0-3, 0-4, okay. We can talk about, you're probably in big trouble. But we got to stop acting like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. The Jets beat the Bills last week. It means nothing. Okay? The Jets season's over. Like, you can choose not to believe it if you want to, but the Jets season's over, and the Bills still have a shot. They lost a stupid game that they should have won, whatever. They move on. They've got plenty of time to try to figure it out. So it's, 0-2 is not the end of the world, guys. It doesn't mean, oh, geez, it's a disaster. The Chargers, it's not a disaster. It's a concern. Okay? It's concerning. The Chargers had leads in 2 games, or had a chance to win 2 games, and they lost both of them. That's a bit of a, it's a bit of a concern, but it is not, it's far from disaster.
yeah, I mean, I think it's more concerning depending on who the teams are. Like the Broncos, I think, assuming they lose the game today, they're 0-2. That's kind of concerning. The Bears, the Bears, sorry, having comments from the peanut gallery. So the Bears being 0-2, is
Does she
definitely a
not know to
problem.
be quiet?
I'm not going to repeat that. So he said, "Does she not know to be quiet?" So the Bears are 0-2, and I mean Justin Fields. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm reaching a point where I'm like, I don't know about this guy. I mean,
So let's talk about that. It's clear the Bears are bad, which
Yeah.
I kind of I'm not. That doesn't surprise me. The Bears
Yeah,
have a
no.
shit roster, so I get it. What bothers me is that you've got DJ Moore on the team and they don't get him the ball enough. Like, you have some guys on offense now you can actually get the ball to, and they don't seem to be able to do it. And then that interception by the goal line is a goddamn disaster. So,
Yeah.
I don't think, again, another team, I don't think the Bears are really well coached or really well prepared, and I think that's part of it. I also think Justin Fields he's got a ways to go. And, he hasn't really figured out, exactly how to get the most out of the, what he's got yet. But I don't think Justin Fields is bad, but it's clear that the Bears are bad. So, yeah. The Bears over-under was like 7.5 or something, which is just ridiculous. Anybody who thought the Bears had a chance to win 8 games is smoking something.
Yeah, I tend to agree because I just don't, I don't see enough consistency on their offense. I don't see enough. I mean, their defense has talent on it, but it just, I don't know. There's, I think we talked about it before. Like, I think there's just there's some really good offensive coaches, and then there's a lot of other ones who are just, they just don't. Maybe they don't really get the most out of what's there. So, any other 1:00 games that we? Do you want to talk about the Bills at all?
I mean, not really. They just got the Bills got it back. The Bills got back what they were looking for. If your buddy wants to be on the show, Clark, it's totally fine.
No, it's okay.
So but yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't really need to talk about the Buffalo, and I mean the Colts Texans. I mean, the Colts just have a little better roster than the Texans. They just have a little bit more to work with, and that's what it came down to. I hope Anthony Richardson isn't going to be out a long time. He left the game with a concussion. I hope that's not a disaster. But Clark, you had Tampa and Washington both 2-0, right? I mean, that's what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, so the Bills game, nothing really there. What was the other one? I'm sorry, what was the other thing we were just talking about? The
Bears?
Well, the Bears,
Or the Texans and the Colts?
Oh, the Texans. I mean, C.J. Stroud, like, I can see what people saw in him pre-draft, and he was actually relatively accurate, even though he's been kind of running for his life. But again, like I said last week, maybe he's good. I just don't know if we're going to know because he's running for his life, and they just don't have a lot of talent on the team, and he's got a defensive head coach. So we'll see. But I mean, I don't think he's necessarily looked bad. It's just, you're a bad team.
Yeah,
what else are you going to do?
They don't have a lot to work with. Anthony Richardson just has a dimension that's easier to use when you're a rookie. He can run, and so that makes it a lot. That makes it a lot easier for Shane Steichen to figure out how to use him. So he's looked a little bit better, but I don't. I don't know. I don't take a whole lot from it. I think that he's got a long way to go when it comes to that team, and it's hard to figure these guys out when they're just on a really bad team.
Yeah.
So. But the 4:00 games, I mean, let's get this out of the way first. The Jets Cowboys, the Cowboys obviously dominated. Like I told you during the week, the Jets are not going to be able to score, so it really doesn't matter. Like the Cowboys are not going to have to play that well to beat the Jets. It's not that difficult. But I find it interesting this week, Clark, that the entire sports media is trying to find a quarterback for the Jets. Like, it's literally like the media is saying, oh, well, we can't have this story go away. Like, we need the Jets they were interesting before and we could talk about them, but now we really can't, so we've got to find something, we've got to find them a quarterback so they can be good again and we can talk about them. So it cracks me up. Like, watching Get Up and Dan Graziano is like, well, the first call should be to Matthew Stafford. It's like, I don't even know what to say. Like, what are you talking about? No team is going to trade you their starting quarterback in the middle of the damn season. Like, what planet are you guys on? And then you told me the other day they're talking about Kirk Cousins after the Thursday night game. Like, what are you talking about? None of these guys are going to the Jets, guys. We're not going to find a starting quarterback for the Jets. Like, that's better than Zach Wilson at this point. Like, they need to find somebody who can be a backup, because they need another quarterback. But it's so funny how desperate everybody is. Oh, this story's gone. And then today it's like Rodgers might try to make it back for the playoffs. What are we doing now? Like, we're just continuing to try to push this thing forward to make something happen. Like, the media wants so bad for it to be relevant, and they're done. The season's over. It's done, people. Aaron Rodgers is not going to come back from an ACL tear or an Achilles tear in 4 months. It's not going to happen.
Well, besides that, the Jets are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Jets aren't going to make the playoffs. So, but just to interrupt for a second, Denver just threw a Hail Mary. They caught it in the end zone, so they're going for 2 to tie the game. It was one of those, the ball got tipped up in the air off 2 or 3 people. It tipped off 2 Broncos, and then the guy grabbed it in the end zone. Ridiculous. Anyway, so the Cowboys go in, and the Cowboys defense pounds the Jets, and the Jets made one nice pass play to Garrett Wilson because the Cowboys want to be super aggressive on defense. I don't know why. They're playing a team that's not going to be able to score on them. So it's just kind of like, but anyway, the obsession with finding a replacement for Aaron Rodgers just blew my mind this week. Guys, we need to just move on. There'll be other teams that we can talk about. The Cowboys are pretty good, so we can talk about them for every goddamn show. But, just ridiculous to try to keep pushing this Jets nonsense.
Well, people are going to be, slurping the Cowboys tomorrow. They're going to be like, oh my God, look at their defense is so amazing. I feel like we need to treat the first 2 weeks of the season like we would treat it for a college football team that got to play, East, West, South Carolina State, or something, some weird directional school or something. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Giants, who didn't score until the third quarter of the game this week. Okay. And then they're playing the Jets, who lost Aaron Rodgers, and, they have a bad offensive line and they can't score. So I'm supposed to go nuts about and think that the Cowboys, this is their year? Like, no, come on. Go play the Eagles. Let me see what you do against the Eagles. Let me see what you do against, I forget who else they play. You play the AFC East. Okay, go beat the Bills. Or the Dolphins. Show me some. I mean, this doesn't really show me anything. I think your defense is pretty good, but we already kind of knew that, you know.
Yeah, well, I think to me, it's the first month. After the first month of the season, we can assess like who's good and who isn't. Right now, we have no idea. And by the way, the Broncos did not get the 2-point conversion, so the Commanders are 2-0, just like we all predicted, just like we all thought.
I mean,
and,
Sam
Denver's
Howell looks pretty good, I guess.
and Denver's 0-2. Yeah, so fine. Let's let's talk about that game a little bit. So Denver looks like, man, they're rolling. Russell Wilson hit a couple of deep balls. It's 21-3, and I'm looking, but then they show the stats at halftime, and Russell Wilson in the first half was 6 of 9 for 154 yards, and I went 9 pass attempts in a half.
Yeah,
I went, that tells me Sean Payton doesn't really trust him. Now, they did make a run at it today. They got 33 points, and, they tried to come back in the game. But, yeah, there's definitely some concerns. And the defense letting up all those points, that's a serious issue. But, yeah, I don't know about this Russell Wilson thing, Clark. I think, I was kind of could go either way on it starting the season, but it looks more and more every week like the guy's, it's just limited in what he can do. I don't know. I feel like they're climbing uphill all the time.
Well, I saw, he ran a few times, and then there were other times I saw where it looked like he's in the pocket, and then, there's space in front of him, and it's like, dude, the first down's 6 yards away. Just go run and get it. And, he would kind of hold up and, wait, and it's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to be a traditional pocket quarterback. That's not how this is going to work. When you get those yards, you got to just take them, get another first down, wait, he did throw a really nice deep ball in the game. And that's that reminds me of what I used to see. Yeah. What we used to see from Russell Wilson, a really nice deep ball, running for first downs and then, making some, on time throws here and there. So yeah, it's definitely concerning. I mean, Russell Wilson hasn't looked as bad as he looked last year.
Right.
I mean, he's looked more competent. So, but the Broncos, I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't really know what to make of it. I thought Colin Cowherd kind of overreacted last week. He's like, oh, that looked really terrible against the Raiders. And it's like, yeah, it didn't look that great. But I mean, they did get up, 21-3 in this game. So, yeah, I don't know. I still feel like because Sean Payton's there, they'll find some way to finish 6-11.
Oh yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe
but
7-10.
For them, that's a disaster.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. So
they don't have.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know how good they really are. I mean, maybe we're overrating them. I don't know, or maybe it's just a function of Russell Wilson not being, an elite quarterback or the quarterback that this team needs. Maybe I don't know.
Oh yeah, and I'm not expecting Denver to be great. I just can't believe they're not better than this. It seems like they have enough talent on that team that they should be. But we also, again, first month of the season, let's not go crazy yet. But I see some things that I certainly don't like. So 49ers and the Rams, I'm going to keep ringing the bell on this. All these people who thought the Rams were just going to be bad this year, yeah, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because the Rams played the 49ers tough. 49ers have a significantly better roster than them.
Well, one of the interceptions that swung the game, I mean, that's not Matthew Stafford's fault. He threw it right to the guy, and it bounced off him, and the 49ers intercepted it. So, yeah, they were right there.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I don't know who this Puka Nacua guy is, but he set the record for the most catches in the first 2 games of his career. So it's I'm really, you got to, one thing I noticed, big takeaway from the first 2 weeks is, good coaches make a lot of difference. This really comes down to who's a good coach and who isn't. And you can tell relatively quickly with these teams. The Rams are well coached. They got a quarterback. They got some holes in their team and they got a bunch of issues to fix. But, I mean, come on. They're going out there with receivers you've never heard of, Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua, and they don't have Cooper Kupp, and they're playing their asses off. And, they beat the hell out of Seattle last week, and they had the lead on San Francisco this week.
Yep.
So, And the other thing is, like, I think we all need to slow down on San Francisco's unbeatable, and they're this incredibly dominant team after the game last week. Like, Brock Purdy looked kind of human for part of it, and then he started getting the ball to Debo Samuel, and what are you going to do? The 49ers just have great players.
Well, I think, especially like early in the season, so you look at it, San Francisco had 2 road games to start the year, right? And they won both of them. So I think that's huge. You start the year like that, 2 road games. Like with the Dolphins tonight, I mean, that's their second road game. So it'd be nice to start the year 2-0 winning 2 road games, right? Because then you get a home game next. So it's kind of, it's again, I agree with you that, not every game matters. But with that, it's just kind of a nice, it's like, if they were 1-1, fine, whatever. But you get through those first 2 games 2-0, it's like, all right, okay, nice. We kind of got through that little,
I think I learned, I'm just saying we learn more about the Rams in a loss
right.
than we do about some of these teams in wins. And I think the Rams are going to be around. Like, I don't think they're not going to go away. They're not going to be easy to beat. And if they can keep, depends on injuries, but as long as they got Stafford out there slinging it, I think they're going to be competitive. The Giants, what a hell of a comeback. That looked bad. Like, you're watching it just going, are the Giants really this bad? Like, okay, they got blown up by the Cowboys. All right, whatever. But it's just like, are they really this bad? And they showed us in the second half. No, we're not that bad. We'll get our act together. And they did. Saquon Barkley is unbelievable. Daniel Jones made some nice down the field throws. I mean, listen, there's another guy that we're never going to consider elite, but the guy made plays. Like, and then when he couldn't, he ran with the ball, made a bunch of nice plays doing that. So you got to give the Giants credit, man. They were kicked in the teeth again. They looked like they had no life, and they pulled it off, man.
Yeah, on the road, and in Arizona, Arizona's not. Well, it's funny. Like, I guess we don't think Arizona's that good, but I mean, they did win the first week against Washington. And then Washington went to Denver and won the game. So,
No, they lost to Washington last week, but didn't they?
Commanders,
the Commanders are 2-0.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Arizona played. Well, I guess it was a relatively close game. I don't know.
Yeah. They played them tough.
Yeah. So
it's tough to win in the NFL, man. It's tough. I don't care who you're playing.
And I feel like the Giants are probably, no matter what happens the rest of the way, they're probably going to finish the season with a negative point differential because, I mean, they gave up 60 points before they scored for the first time this year. So, maybe that's something they can kind of hang their hat on, going into next week, and they can, keep it going. I mean, Daniel Jones, it's kind of like, I guess I don't know what to make of him, but maybe he's just, with Daboll coaching him, he can just be a solid starter, which is the case for a lot of teams in the NFL. There's only a few teams that have like a truly elite quarterback. Most of them, most of the teams, I mean, there's teams that just have bad quarterbacks, then there's teams that just have a guy who's reliable, and then there's other stuff you got to put around him to see if you can get the most out of him. So we'll see.
All right. Any other games?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I think that was pretty much it. I think that covered all of them. I mean, we've got the one tonight. Obviously, we got the Dolphins tonight, and then what are the Saints are playing the Panthers, and then the Steelers are playing the Browns. Okay. Yeah.
So what do you think about the Dolphins game tonight? How you
I don't know, because Tua's 4-0 against Belichick, but if you watch those games, as we did, they didn't necessarily win those games because of Tua. So
right.
It was kind of the defense, and the Patriots struggled or made mistakes here and there. So is this maybe the one where Belichick wins? I mean, it is in New England. And I don't think Belichick's going to allow his defense to just get torched the way they got torched last week, or the way that the Miami was torching the Chargers last week. So,
yep.
But is this going to look like one of those games where Tua looks like really terrible? Is he just going to look passable? Are they only going to score one offensive touchdown? I don't know. Like, I would
Yeah.
venture to guess that maybe that would be because that's kind of what we've seen from Tua when the defense really locks stuff down. So we'll kind of, I guess we'll see. This is, if you're uh, I don't know if you're a Tua critic, put it that way. Not, I was going to say a Tua doubter. I'll say a Tua critic. Then you'd like to see him go out against the Patriots and have a solid game. I'm not saying he has to light them up, but just have a solid game. Don't have, bad interceptions and be able to move the ball a little bit better than you have the last few times that you played the Patriots. So we'll see.
Yeah, play quarterback the way you're supposed to. Make the right decisions, that kind of stuff. I mean, first of all, there's the money is coming in on the Patriots. The Patriots were, the Dolphins were a 3-point favorite, and it's down to 2 points now. So that tells you probably the sharp bettors are betting on the Patriots. So we'll see. So we'll see what happens with that. I think it comes down to can the Dolphins block the Patriots front. I think that everything kind of depends on that. From what I understand, Armstead is going to play. So they've got to, but that's what it comes down to for me. If they can block them, at least give Tua enough time, and even if it's kind of a defensive battle, that gives the Dolphins a pretty good shot at it. The other thing to watch out for is are the Dolphins going to be able to stop the run? Like I don't know, was that game last week a fluke or what? Are they just going to be bad at stopping the run the whole season? I don't think it. I mean, I lean towards that's kind of an anomaly. I think the Dolphins have good enough players on defense. I don't understand why they wouldn't stop the run. So we'll see how that goes. But I think this is a competitive game and probably comes down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, probably. I mean, again, we'll see. Like I said, this is one of those games where it's like, okay, Tua, I need to see something here. Like, it can't look like the Chargers game last year. Or it can't look like the first game of the year against the Patriots last year, where you get one offensive touchdown, you throw one interception, you throw like 2 or 3 other passes that probably should have gotten picked off. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, I need to see competence and give the team a chance to win. And, maybe if it's late in the game and you need a drive down the field and get a field goal or a touchdown to win the game. Like,
Yep.
Show me something. So,
excuse me. All right, so yeah, let's talk about college football. So,
yeah.
it looked like a pretty boring day, Clark. It looked like there's not any good games this week. What's the big deal? Whatever. And boy, let me tell you something. College football changes your expectations like no sport I've ever seen. Where it looks like it's a dud, and there were pretty good games basically the whole day. A lot of the favorites held on to win until nighttime, and then Tennessee bit the big one and got their ass kicked in Gainesville by the Gators. So, that was a fun day of college football. You had multiple over 20-point favorites in trouble and not cover their spread. They managed to win, but the games were highly in doubt, and it was highly exciting. So I think Florida State they were behind 10-0 against Boston College. Then they kind of took over the game and they were up 31-10. But then they allowed a furious comeback by Boston College, and ended up hanging on to win. But it was kind of I feel like this week, because a lot of major teams were playing teams that they're supposed to beat, a lot of them got caught looking ahead to the next week when they have huge games. And I think that happened to a few. I think this definitely happened to Florida State. They know their big game is with Clemson next week, and they kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit. And so you and I got into an argument about some decisions made at the end of the game. So do you want to relitigate your boneheaded decisions that you were spewing on yesterday?
Okay, so what was it? It was 31-29, right?
31-29. Boston College has the ball. There's 2.5 minutes to go. It's 4th down and 24 to go.
Okay.
And your comment
was... They
have
2 timeouts.
They have 2 timeouts. Your comment was, well, they're never going to get the ball back. Why don't they just go for it? And I said to you, because it's...
Did they get the ball back?
They didn't get the ball back, but not because...
Case closed. I
Not
rest my case.
not because the decision was bad. They were going to get the ball back. They stopped Florida State on third down. The guy just grabbed a face mask like an idiot. They committed a dumb penalty, which prevented them from getting the ball back. Otherwise, they would have gotten the ball back with a minute to go and no timeouts, and all they need is a field goal to win. So I don't understand your rationale. The best chance to win when it's 4th and 24 there is to punt the ball and use your timeouts, because Florida State's not going to, they're not going to put the ball in the air. They can't afford to. It's going to be conservative. So the odds of getting 4th and 24 are far below, you punting the ball and trying to get the ball back. So what were you smoking?
Well, I mean, I just you if you don't think you're going to get the ball back, then, I think you got to go for it there. I mean, you have the ball, you need a field goal. They had converted a 3rd and 20, previously on the drive. So, if you give up the ball, then you might not get it back, and then you lose the game. And you're at home. They were, I guess Boston College does something, because I think they were talking about it during the broadcast. I guess someone who went to Boston College or something rescued people from one of the towers on September 11th. So I guess every year they play a game where they honor that person. So you're at home, emotional weekend. The fans are kind of going crazy, and it's kind of like, well, why not take it? I mean, if you don't get it, you lose the game. But if you punt the ball and you don't get the ball back, you lose the game. So
right. But if there was a minute to go in the game, I would agree with you. But there were 2.5 minutes to go. So it wasn't like they had a good shot, a better shot of getting the ball back that way than they did of getting 4th and 24. So anyway, I had some choice words for you. I called you Brandon Staley at one point. So, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that just, I mean, I get that that you want to go, going for it on 4th down or 4th and 5, like, all right, we can talk about it. But to me, it was clearly the best decision, and it almost worked out in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, 4th and 24, that's kind of tough. So yeah, maybe that's a little too risky. I don't know.
Well, it's not that it's too risky. It's just it's unnecessary. There's a better option sitting there.
Yeah,
so that's all.
All right.
But anyway, but Florida State looked they looked shaky, but I don't take a whole lot from that game. They had the lead. They kind of let them back in the game on the road.
They also, annihilated LSU. So, they've got that win to hang their hat on. Alabama, on the other hand, they got some problems.
Yeah, that is, and it's beyond, by the way, it's not just a quarterback issue either. This is beyond the quarterback. The offensive line is bad. Like, this is not good. They had this problem last year. They didn't fix it. They're telling us, we got the 3 biggest offensive linemen in the country and we're going to be awesome. And South Florida was basically hanging in there with them. Alabama had 3 points until late in the third quarter. Okay? I don't know what they're doing, why they took Jalen Milroe out, okay? Like, I understand, Jalen Milroe is not a first-round pick. I get it. But at the same time, you knew you didn't have anything better on the bench. So I'm not sure.
Well, they proved that in that game because both of them came in and,
Yeah, it was not good. So they had 107 passing yards in the game. And so, looking forward for them, I'm concerned. I mean, they're going to lose 3 or 4 games because, look, they play Ole Miss next week. If they can't score 20 points, they're not going to beat Ole Miss. They're not going to beat LSU. They're not going to beat Tennessee. So it's this is a serious problem.
USF is unranked, and I mean they couldn't really throw the ball, and they were in the game for almost the whole way. So that kind of concerns me, and they were getting pressure on the quarterback. They just couldn't really generate much offense. So, and that's they're an unranked team. I mean, what do you want?
Yep.
So yeah, the fact that you would think that all right, well, if they can't throw the ball, then maybe they can just do the old style Nick Saban thing and just run the ball down their throats. Well, no, they couldn't do that either. So, yeah, that's that's a pretty big concern, especially when you look at what Texas did to them. So, are you telling me that when Alabama plays like a really competent quarterback, that Bama's going to get lit up? I mean, because if that's the case, like you can't, this is not 15 years ago. Like you got to be able to score points, especially scoring points in the passing game. If you can't do that, and the SEC is not the way they used to be. There's some good quarterbacks. There's some offenses. They can put points on the board. So, yeah, that's Bama. Maybe they're going to lose maybe they're going to lose another game or two. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see any way they get through the rest of their schedule without losing at least one game, maybe two or three.
Right.
I just don't think. This isn't a competent enough level to where you can't survive this way.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they get it fixed. But it brings me to my bigger question, Clark. Why can't Alabama get a quarterback? I'm watching college football all day. I see all these average teams with good quarterbacks. They're all over the place. They transfer all the time. You can't get one? So I'm just confused as to how Alabama's gotten to this point. Is this stubbornness? What is this by Nick Saban? They get Tyler Buchner from Notre Dame, who objectively sucks. He cannot throw the ball. I watched this guy. He cannot throw it at all. And he had 34 yards passing in the game when he was in there. Like the guy is I just don't understand what we're doing. He's just a really bad version of Jalen Milroe. Like, just play Milroe then, if that's the best you got. I don't get that. Somebody's going to need to explain it to me. Maybe we'll figure it out this season, but I don't understand why Alabama can't get a quarterback. Anyway, but Georgia, Georgia, the presumptive number one team. Oh, geez, they're unbeatable, blah, blah, blah. And they're down 14-3 to South Carolina at halftime.
Yeah.
And, now the second half, they did their job. They came in, they laid the smack down. They shut out South Carolina with their defense, and the offense played pretty well, and they finally started letting their quarterback throw the ball a little bit. So, I think it's this season in college football is kind of hard to tell because so many of the good teams had to replace their quarterback. So you don't get the continuity that you get with some of these teams who bring back the same guy.
Right.
It does make a difference. I think Georgia's going to get there, and their schedule is pretty weak until November, so they'll probably be just fine. But it was interesting today that look at, like you said, Clark, a competent quarterback. They play up. Spencer Rattler can make plays. They play a guy who's capable of doing that, and he did pretty well.
Well, so, once they started getting pressure on him, it was just over. I mean, he just couldn't do anything in the second half. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the question because you get the quarterback can be like the equalizer. They can make a huge difference, especially if they're like a dual threat quarterback and they can run.
Yeah. So the other game I wanted to talk about, obviously, the Deion Sanders Invitational.
I didn't see any of this, actually. Unfortunately, I heard it was insane.
Last night, I watched it this morning. Last night in Boulder, Colorado. So Colorado against Colorado State. First of all, I just want to point this out. Deion Sanders, like, my God, nobody can self-promote like Deion. I mean, he puts everybody to shame. The guy, I mean, I was texting you this. The guy he was on, Undisputed. He's on Undisputed every week on Monday. He was on Pat McAfee's show. He was on both pregame shows before the game. Game Day and Fox Noon Kickoff both went to Boulder. He's on both shows. Okay, he's going to be on 60 Minutes right now. He's on 60 Minutes. Okay, like, the guy's everywhere. Like, good Lord. And the other thing was, like, I'm watching, Clark, they have Deion Sanders on Game Day, and he's selling these sunglasses. He has these sunglasses that look really cool or whatever. Yeah. And, of course, they have the Rock is the guest picker, Dwayne Johnson. So he has him on, and so he's talking about the sunglasses, and since Wednesday when he was on McAfee, they've sold 1.2 million of them. Okay? And then he's like, hey, put these on. So he has The Rock put on the sunglasses on TV in front of everybody, and then he goes to the Fox show, and he has Urban Meyer put on the sunglasses. He's got everybody wearing them. It's like, this guy... I mean, I texted you in our chat with our dad and our uncle. I said, Colorado should just take its entire endowment and just give it to Deion. He's going to make them 10 times more than that as long as he's the coach there. They can't pay him enough. This guy is just money in so many ways. Now, the game itself, Colorado kind of listen. This is the downside to kind of talking trash and talking about things being personal and taking offense to things is that you end up with a target on your back. And Colorado State came in there, not intimidated, pissed off, ready to pound you, and they were hitting people. They hit Travis Hunter late on a catch on the sideline, knocked him out of the game. Like Colorado State was pissed off, talking trash, and bringing it, and they came to play. And they were, Colorado was losing this game for a lot of it. Colorado's defense didn't look very good. And if it weren't for some, a fumble here or there, like they might have been in trouble. They managed to win the game in overtime. They needed a 98-yard drive and a 2-point conversion at the end to tie the game. So, there's definitely – it was great that they got the win. And Deion said it after the game. It was great that they got a win. They had to be tough, but they didn't look great doing it. Now, their quarterback looked fantastic. I haven't – there's been no flaws in his game the whole time. He's looked great every game. And every game he comes up with something in the second half and plays really well. So no faults there. But they clearly showed some issues, and they're playing at Oregon next week. Oregon's favored by 19 points. So, I think that they're going to get – I think things are going to change. Things are going to be set straight next week, and we'll see what happens because there will be no amount of trash talking, chip on our shoulder, nobody believes in us that's going to overcome the talent deficiencies between them and Oregon or the talent disparity. So great game, but yeah, Colorado, I just, we'll see how they do. I didn't know how they were going to win 6 games before. I think it's going to be close as far as that goes, but they're taking a huge step up in class the next couple of weeks against Oregon and USC.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really played a good team yet. Let's be fair, So that's kind of a concern. Now they won those 3 games, which okay, good, But yeah, I think you got to be concerned. I don't know that they're gonna be able to. I mean, if you're getting way behind against Colorado State, I just kind of feel like Oregon's gonna beat them by double digits. I mean, at the least. I mean, I just, we'll see. I'm excited to watch. Hopefully, we get a good game because that's what you want to see. But yeah, and maybe Shedeur Sanders can, like I said before, he can kind of bridge the gap between, if Oregon has more talent than they do, maybe he can make up for that. Which we've seen that a lot. Like if he can run around and make some big throws, like okay. But I don't know. I don't think that it's going to be enough. And not to, by the way, I'm not saying, I don't want to take credit away from, the fact that they're 3-0 at this point is amazing. They won 1 game last year.
Yep.
So we'll see. I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, they've done a hell of a job. That they've got some skill guys on that team are fantastic. Travis Hunter did get hurt in the game, and Deion said he's probably going to be out a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and that's really bad for them because it's like losing 2 players because the guy plays both ways. He's one of their best defensive players, and he's one of their best receivers. So that's really going to hurt them. They do have enough skill position players to kind of make up for it, but that's going to be an issue. I wanted to mention this. So, the SEC doesn't look as dominant as they usually do. Looks like we've got some. We definitely don't have a great team in the SEC, and they're losing a lot of these out of conference games. Now, again, first month of the season, we'll see how it goes. But for right now, it's. At best, the SEC is top heavy. A lot of these other teams don't look fantastic. So we'll see how this goes. But it's just kind of interesting. This may be one of the first years where the SEC maybe isn't the best conference. They might have the best team, maybe, but they definitely don't have the best conference because the Pac-12 is really deep. They got 6, 7, 8 teams that are pretty darn good.
Well, maybe this is kind of a point where we get, there's a couple other conferences that maybe step up. Maybe it'll be the Big Ten, next year when USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA are in there. Maybe that'll be it. Texas is moving to the SEC, and maybe they can have a really good year this year. They're kind of set up to do that. So I mean, Texas really, they should win the Big 12 and go to the playoff this year. I
Yeah.
mean, they literally should. Like if they don't, it's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of a failure. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, but if you can get, USC being good, and then you get Florida State being kind of back, it looks like, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. And then you get, I mean, Michigan that being there still, obviously Ohio State still being there. Um, maybe there's, yeah, maybe because it's really hard to stay, I mean, we're criticizing Alabama, but it's like, yeah, I mean, we're criticizing them for not maintaining the ridiculous standard that they maintained for
Right.
like 10 years. Like that's just insane. So,
Yeah. 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 So it's just kind of something to keep your eye on. I think it's really fascinating. And if it carries into next year, like we're going to have it's going to be really fascinating with the 12-team playoff, with all these teams. I don't think we're going to get two SEC teams in the playoff this year. I think you can I think that's you can kind of put that out there. I don't think that's likely to happen, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes with the rest of these conferences. So next week is the first just gigantic week of college football, Clark. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Florida State, Clemson, Colorado against Oregon, Alabama against Ole Miss, Penn State against Iowa. Even like the average games next week are pretty good. So
yeah.
that I am going to be locked and glued in. I think this is really going to be fun. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's going to be great weekend, and hopefully it'll be, but the way college football works, Clark, all the games we don't expect to be good end up being good, and the games we think are going to be great end up being duds. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we have some good stuff to talk about next week, but
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? Oh, so real quick. So two things. So I had an idea before we got on, like maybe we could do something, because we're through 2 weeks. Well, we're almost through 2 weeks in the NFL season.
Right.
What are a few things that we think we know at this point? Because it's early in the
Yep.
season, it's hard to really. But so give me some examples. What are some things that you think you know based on the first 2 weeks of the season?
I think I know that the Jets are done.
Okay.
I realize that's kind of obvious, but I took the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I think most of the good teams are still good. I think we know that the AFC is jam packed with a bunch of good teams. We know there's a limited amount of quality in the NFC, but we know that the Eagles are a good team is trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see. I mean, it's hard to really, again, there's not like a bunch of stuff, but I would just say that like, okay, it's not last year. So I'm trying to
Yep.
constantly remember that. So when you see a team like, oh, I thought this team was good. What, based on last year? Like you don't just
Right.
continue what you're doing from the year before. So the Bengals, we'll see. I don't really know exactly what's going on. Uh, I know the Titans are the Titans again. They're just, they're just going to play
Yep.
like their like their coach, and they're going to be in a lot of games, and they'd probably be competing for that division. I mean Jacksonville. I think we like Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is obviously clearly talented, but we don't look at Jacksonville like, oh, there's some dominant team. They got a lot of talent.
Yep.
Um, and then
Yeah,
beyond, go ahead.
I think let's put some thoughts together and we'll think about this a little bit more and roll it out next week.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So again, it's hard to, but I do think the point is important. Like it's hard to really figure out like things that we're like, okay, I'm absolutely certain of this. I mean, you could do that. You could be like, well, the Cowboys are unbelievable, but come
it's
on.
hard. It's also hard to be absolutely certain of anything after 2 weeks. But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, all right. Anything else before we get out of here? Game's about to start.
So well, just real quick. So I've been saying that maybe I'm going to watch some baseball. I actually have been watching some baseball because the Marlins are in the wild card race. They swept the Braves this weekend. They scored like 37 runs or something. So, and I think they're tied with Arizona, and Arizona's playing the Cubs tonight. So yeah, there's only like I don't know 12 games to go or something like that. So it's kind of exciting. So, and I'll fully admit that I don't even really know exactly how the playoffs in baseball work anymore. So I'm kind of like looking at stuff. I'm like, okay, so like, are the Marlins in the playoffs now, or do they
So
have to like?
if you get one of the 3 wild card spots, you play a best of 3 series
Okay,
first, and then the winners of that goes to the division series, which is 5 games, and then the league championship series, which is 7, in the World Series. So, yeah, they'd have to win a lot of a lot of games, but you get that wild card spot, you get a shot. It's not like it's not one game
well,
anymore. You get
I
3
mean, the
games.
Braves are clearly a really good team, and they've already clinched. And I was concerned, could Miami like win a couple games in that series? They swept the series. So now I think they play the Mets, who are a bad team, and then I think later on they play like the Dodgers, who have already clinched. So it's like, wow, I think they could actually, and I mean the Marlins are hitting home runs like crazy. Like
Yep.
again, I don't even know who half the players are on this team. So I'm just kind of like watching, but I mean it's kind of exciting, and the game still moves pretty quickly. I mean I think the pitch clock does a pretty good job, so I am
So
kind of
on the
excited to watch
next
some playoffs.
on the next episode of the Completely Uninformed podcast, we'll talk about baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, folks, we're gonna get out of here and watch our Dolphins. Root them on. Go Dolphins! And
Yeah.
everybody, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell us what you like, what you didn't like, and have a great night.